This is my book review for Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, the updated version by Peter Scazzero, which was published in 2017 by Zondervan. It's 240 pages, and the genre of book is self-help or Christian discipleship. The theme of this book is to educate the reader on practical skills that can be used to become healthier in your emotional and spiritual life. The goal of this book is to help the reader develop these practical skills listed in the book and apply them to real-life situations. As we begin the book, it starts chapter 1 with Scazzero's personal story of emotional development. It talks about his emotional burnout, his lack of emotional maturity because of his upbringing, and how he finally opened up to maturing spiritually. He introduces the top 10 symptoms of emotionally unhealthy spirituality as well in this chapter. Chapter 2 moves on to talk about knowing that the feeling of emotions is a part of being who God created us to be, and you can't reject that part of humanity and be healthy spiritually. It talks about the concept of developing a false self and talks about practical ways to become one's authentic self. Chapter 3 talks about how your upbringing affects your emotional maturity, and it gives plenty of biblical and personal examples of that in Scazzero's life and in the Bible. Chapter 4 talks about spiritual life and faith as a journey and uses the illustration of a wall as a period of trial in faith that breaks you down and then builds you back up again to have a stronger relationship with God. Chapter 5 talks about the difficulties of grief and loss in faith. It talks about Job as an example in the Bible and how we should be able to feel these emotions and know that God is with us through them and that they're how He made us. Chapter 6 talks about taking time to be with God and to rest in Him. It talks about the daily office and the Sabbath. We lead incredibly busy lives. This introduces the idea of the daily office and Sabbath as an incredibly important daily practice. Chapter 7 talks about the 4 stages of emotional maturity as infancy, childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, and how these directly affect our relationships with others. It talks about conflict, peacemaking, and active listening as important strategies to becoming an emotionally healthy adult. Chapter 8, the last chapter, introduces the practice of having rules for life and lists some of the ones that are put in place biblically and some that we should put in place personally to keep ourselves in healthy emotional and spiritual habits. To conclude, I think this is a great book to read. It's well laid out and relatively comprehensive in content. One thing I would say was difficult for me was that the chapters took really careful reading to understand, and some of the chapters were too long for me to sit and read in one sitting. It was a very interesting read, very instructive, and I would definitely recommend it to people who are confused as to how they should go about relieving stress and growing in their emotional life. The content is pretty engaging, and Scazzero uses lots of great examples in his writing to demonstrate the ideas presented. Thank you.